of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just a second. Okay, good evening. We're going to start with our student expulsions from closed session. I'll go in the order they appeared in our agenda. So I need a motion on case number 035041.
Move approval of the stipulation.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Fong? Aye. Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Okay, case number 038043.
Move the recommendation of the panel.
Second.
Moved by Director Carl, second by Director Pugh. Roll call vote, please.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Fong? Aye. Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Motion carries. Student expulsion case number 039044.
Move the recommendation of the panel.
Second.
Moved by Director Carl, second by Director Pugh. Roll call vote, please.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Fong? Aye. Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Student expulsion case number 041046.
Move approval of the stipulation.
Second.
Moved by Director Carl, second by Director Pugh. Roll call vote, please.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Fong? Aye. Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Okay, case number 042047.
Move the recommendation of the panel.
Second.
Moved by Director Carl, second by Director Pugh. Roll
Director
call
Carl?
vote, please.
Aye.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Fong? Aye. Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Okay, 045050.
Move approval of the stipulation.
Second.
Moved by Director Carl, second by Director Pugh. Roll call vote, please.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Fong? Aye. Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Now
Aye.
we're on yellow.
Okay, sorry for the confusion. Okay, case number 026032,
Move recommendation of the panel.
Second.
moved by Director Carl, second by Director Pugh. Roll call vote, please.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Case number 032038,
Move approval of the stipulation.
Second.
moved by
Carl?
Director Carl, seconded by Director Pugh. Roll call vote, please.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Case 037042,
Move the recommendation of the panel.
Second.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
aye. 043048,
Move the recommendation of the panel.
Second.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
aye. Okay, moving on to student readmissions. We have case 1516002,
Move the readmission.
Second.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
aye. And case 1516050,
Move the readmit, change the placement to Ridgeway.
Second.
moved by Director Carl, second by Director Pugh. Roll call vote.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Okay, motion carries. And that was not the smoothest start to a board meeting ever. We have nowhere to go but up. Okay, statements of abstention. Any? Adjustments to the agenda?
Right.
Yes, we need to pull E15 from the consent. Board member request for information. Approval of minutes of the regular board meeting held May 24th, 2017.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Director Carl, second by Director Pugh. Roll call vote, please.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Fong? I'm sorry, Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Approval of minutes of the regular board meeting held June 2nd, 2017.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Director Carl, second by Director Pugh. Roll call vote, please.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Okay, and that brings us to C8, special presentation, Ola King Clay.
Says so in the minutes. Is that where you have that?
We've prepared a duet in your honor.
Shoo-wop-ba-da-bop. Oh, no, okay.
Not really.
Not really.
No, but we do wanted to take some time to thank you for your service as SRTA Board President and for being such a good partner. And we really appreciate your spirit and passion and all the positivity you brought to the job and that you bring to the district. And in the spirit of Ola King Clay, I actually picked out a song lyrics.
Are you going to sing it?
I am absolutely not going to sing it. That would be torturous for all involved. I'm not even going to read it all because it's very long. But I will tell you that I was thinking of what song would I pick out for Ola, and it happens to be one of my most favorite songs from my most favorite artist from my most favorite album. and it's called Love's in Need of Love Today by Stevie Wonder.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And it just makes me
Please
think of
sing
you.
it.
Please sing it. That would be disastrous. But I will read the chorus because Ola shared some of her favorite lyrics with us. Is it love's in need of love today? Don't delay. Send yours in right away. Hate's going round, breaking many hearts. Stop it, please, because it's gone too far. And that, I think of Ola always bringing love to every situation, even in the most trying of situations. And so this is the song I thought of for you. I will give you that on a pretty green paper. It's not as pretty as the paper you'd bring to us, nor is it laminated.
It's not purple.
It's not, I know, I'm sorry.
And Ola, I just want to say, in the spirit of this song and bringing the love, your leadership for the now learning labor management collaborative DLT is so greatly appreciated, and I think it is something that is going to really help carry our district forward. And so I greatly, greatly appreciate your spearheading and helping create the DLT, along with all the other things that you've done to bring us together, to work together. And so I don't have a song, but when Jen was talking, what it does remind me about you, because of the way you are, let's be happy, right? Right? So in honor of being happy, we have a card and a little gift for you to go have some relaxation at Me Spa.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So Ola, thank you so much for everything.
Very, very welcome. Thank you. Oh, okay.
When are you going to speak? Well, go ahead. You want to say something?
You know, it is a pleasure working with the DO, working with SRTA, working with everybody, and I'm a very inclusive person. You're not too old for me, you're not too young, you're just right. And bringing joy to people is one of my fortes. And I appreciate coming down and speaking to you guys, especially you 5, 6, 7. It gives me joy and happiness. And in my farewell speech, you'll hear that. So with that, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I take a picture of the three of us?
Oh, sure.
Oh, and also you have the
Oh, we have a
certificate.
certificate, too.
Oh, now that's
Purple paper.
Oh my God, I'm so impressed. You guys remember, you pay attention.
We do, we do.
Big smile, ladies.
1, 2.
Is that the song? That is the song.
Everybody turn your phones on.
Nice job.
As you head on up.
I should have had you cue that up as we walked up.
That's pretty good.
Okay, so that brings us to public comment on non-agenda items. I don't have any blue cards here. Yes, this is an opportunity for the public to comment on items not on the agenda. And we remind you that if you have comments about employees, that you not make those at this time, but instead talk to the district office staff afterwards, and also remind the speakers that we can take no action or make no comment on what we hear at this time. Okay? With that, Wendy Martin Miller.
Good evening. I sent an email to each of you regarding problems with West County Transportation Agency. They are ongoing problems. My daughter's 21. She started with special ed services at the age of 3. She started out with West County, horrendous problems. One of the first things that happened was at the age of 3 years old, her bus driver was lost for several hours in the afternoon and couldn't figure out how to drop her off. And I was unable to get through to the office to find out what was going on and where my daughter was. Luckily, our services went to Laidlaw for student after that for most of 15 or 16 years. And while they're not perfect, they at least answered their phones. So when we had a problem, we could get answers. My daughter is in her last 6 months of an adult transition program through SCO down at La Fiesta. Yesterday, she did not get picked up. About 10 or 15 minutes after she was to be dropped off at home, I got a call from the teacher to let me know that the bus had not picked her up. They hung up with me saying, oh, I've got a call coming in, it must be the bus company. So I was left not knowing if I should go pick her up, if I should wait because she would be on her way. I did immediately start trying to call the bus company. I left several voicemail messages. I kept calling. Eventually, an hour later, I had to resort to using multiple phone lines so that I and I alone could tie up their phone lines until they could answer. That was an hour later. So 2 hours after she was supposed to be on a bus, they were unaware that they had not picked her up. She got home. School lets out at about noon. She got home at 3:10. This just simply is not acceptable, and I expressed that in my email to you. I used words like incompetent, negligent, and criminal, and those were intentionally used. I asked you to consider reviewing your membership in the JPA because there's no competition. There is no need for them to increase their level of service. There is no need for them to specify their qualifications as a company to you. All of what competitive proposal and qualification-based proposals would give you. Now, I realize, because I come from a public agency background and had JPAs that I worked with, I realize that the legal entanglements to exiting them might be very difficult. So at the very least, I ask you to demand a regular report of performance metrics from them and issues so that you're aware of what is going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, D1, Santa Rosa Teachers Association report. Looking Claye.
I truly stand before you for the last time. I guess I was off a month last month, so I'm back. And once again, good evening, Madam President, Superintendent, and Board Directors. This too was another wonderful day in my life, and hopefully yours. After all, each of us control the destiny of our life. I had the opportunity to spend 3 days with some great people. We did some great work, and I'm looking forward to the upcoming school year. Although I'll not be president, but I will be playing a semi-major role. I also had the pleasure of attending a CLMS, California League of Middle Schools, conference a few days ago, and the main topic was our students, our future. Throughout this conference, each presenter gave the positive side of being the educator of the future and the future of education. There comes a time when we all need to put down our personal shields and move into the circle of life. I've talked about being a team player, unity, equality, fairness, collaboration, caring, professionalism, and above all, honesty. If we are truly to move into the 21st century, we need to open the doors and let each and everyone know that we are a truly united force in the field of education. This brings me to share with you one of my favorite leadership books, The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. Hopefully you've all read it or had it read to you one time or another. Bill, you're looking at me like there's a book, The Giving Tree. It's one of those books I shared with my leadership students. We would share it on the first day of class, in the middle of the school year, and at the end. And at the end, they all got that message. They were the giving tree. Our student body were the takers in a positive atmosphere. And it's a story about a young boy who wants a lot of things, and all he wants is someone to give it to him. Starts off with just small things, a nice red apple. By the end of the book, he gets a house, he gets a boat, but the tree has nothing else to give. And at the end, he says, "Come, boy, sit on my stump and relax and enjoy." So you are the givers. We all are the givers. We need to keep giving and think about the future. For without us, there is no future in education. Thank you.
Thank you, Ola. CSEA, is Tammy here? Or no? Superintendent report.
Good evening, everybody. Oops, that's a little too loud. Let me move that back. Just a few things I wanted to share with you tonight. This Thursday and Friday, we'll be participating, and actually we're a host of the International Cultural Proficiency Institute in partnership with Corwin Press. And so there'll be upwards of about 200 people, I don't know, so 125 to 200 people attending in Rohnert Park. Many of our district and site people are attending. And so we're very excited to continue the training and work around cultural proficiency, equity, and social justice. We're pleased that as a part of our district learning team, labor collaborative management, and CalTurn, at our last meeting, some of our members attended a workshop by Dr. Ed Burgess. He is the Associate Executive Director of the San Juan Teachers Association. He's been working with SRTA, I think, these last 3 days in their retreat. He worked with the CSEA as well in training, and today our administrators were able to be trained this afternoon by Dr. Burgess. And so it's exciting to think what we can do moving forward with this training and this common language I think that we're going to have around what he presented. Next, I'd like to congratulate teacher Rebecca Topp from Elsie Allen High School. She is the recipient from the Northern California Special Olympics for Teacher of the Season in her work around Special Olympics. I'd like to thank her and congratulate her on this honor. I'd also like to congratulate teacher Brian Deller, also of Elsie Allen High School. He received the 2017 Carson Family Foundation Outstanding Teacher of America Award. He'll receive, I believe it's a $5,000 grant to spend however he would like in his classroom. So we're really excited about that. And finally, I once again want to congratulate the 1,700 students who graduated from Santa Rosa City Schools. And also to note that our first class will be attending Sonoma State for Compact for Success. And so I think that's something that this board should be very proud of in their support of Compact for Success, and that we need to ensure that those students who have graduated from Elsie Allen will be extremely successful at Sonoma State. So that's my report.
Okay, I just have a quick comment for my report, and that is that it sounds like we had really great graduations across the district and project graduation events, and so I also want to offer my congratulations and to all those students, and thank yous to the parents and teachers who helped pull off those celebrations and the project grads that keep all the kids safe. Then the comment I have around that is that about a few weeks before graduation, Elsie Allen was short money for its project graduation, and it puts its project graduation on for kind of a fraction of how much the other schools have. And and through the efforts of some community members and a lot of people stepped up and threw in some money at the last minute, they were able to cover that shortfall and make a deposit for next year, and everything is fine. But it really is another highlight of the problem that we have with inequity in private money across our schools and what a huge effect that has. And so it's something that I hope that we can address at some point, whether it's through a district-wide foundation that can help balance those inequities or something, but it's something that I think that we really need to talk about in the future. But really, hats off to all the parents who pull off those events and to everybody who stepped up to help make Elsie happen, and to those dedicated parents who worked tirelessly to the end to make sure that was going to happen for the students. We don't have any board committee reports, so we'll go with board member reports, and I'll start with Director Fong.
Congratulations to our seniors who moved on out of high school, and actually to every other single kindergartner, first grader, seventh grader, eighth grader who moved on a year. And I want to wish our teachers and our administrators, our site administrators, a wonderful summer with a lot of rest and rejuvenation. We need that. We need to fuel ourselves and feed ourselves. I want to thank Director Evelyn Anderson, who's not here tonight, for taking my place at the Santa Rosa High School graduation. I apologize to Santa Rosa High School for not getting to be there. I was under general anesthetic for this puppy here, so thank you to Director Anderson and to those Santa Rosa grads. Congratulations. I was gonna do this, fist bump you all, but it didn't work out either. I also want to thank the Kiwanis clubs of the area for doing so much for youth. Their whole focus, the Kiwanis clubs, you know, it's just a fraternal organization, lots of different people in it volunteer, and their whole effort is to focus on youth. The downtown Kiwanis particularly just did a whole thing on sophomores, the most improved sophomores, and of course it's so inspiring. And I liked it that they did sophomores where you're really deciding at that age level whether you're going to, you know, make it or just give up. You know, we have lots of people recognizing seniors and the best seniors and like that, but these were sophomores who really have proven themselves through 2 years of high school when they really had a tough start. So thank you to all the Kiwanis clubs in our area.
Director Pearl.
Thank you. Congratulations to all the seniors. I had an opportunity to attend the graduation at Montgomery, and it was Randy Burbank's first graduation. And because of people like Jim Haas, it went off perfectly well. He's only been doing it for ever since I can remember, having been there 15, 20 years ago when they did graduations. I attended both the Thursday and Friday practice sessions as well. It was real interesting to participate and watch every aspect of it, including an address that Jim makes to the seniors in the gym just before they go out on Friday, and it's really exciting. The level of personal emotion that occurs between the students and their teachers and principal and various other folks that are in that room is really outstanding. Second item, I appreciate the comment that we received in public comment. My understanding is we have a report coming back, do we not, with respect to our JPA position. We've expressed some concerns as a board, and my understanding is that sometime in the next 30 days we're receiving a report with respect to that. So those comments are appreciated within the context of our review of that report.
Director Pugh.
Thank you. While everybody here thinks they had the best high school graduation participation, I did. I had the opportunity and the privilege to be at Maria Carrillo High School. The ceremony was flawless. The music was great. There's a jazz singing group there that was just so good. And the audience seemed to be really quite happy and excited, as they should be. I saw a few students with tears in their eyes when they crossed the stage. You know, we never really know what efforts had to be taken to get a student to graduate. And you see the results of a lot of good positive work from our teachers and administrators at these sites and opportunities. So I had the best ceremony.
Director Sheffield.
Yes, just a general congratulations to all the grads and the students in their advancements. And I'm sorry, Frank, I had the best graduation at LC Allen. With Superintendent Kitamura was there as well. It was incredible. Just, for my first time going through this, and the first time I'd been to a high school graduation, I don't even know how many years. It was just an amazing experience. And I talked to a lot of parents and a lot of family members, and just the energy and the excitement was there. And I also attended the Cesar Chavez Kindergrad, and that was really touching and very sweet. And it's sort of that 2 weeks ago, that was the feel-good, one of the feel-good parts of this job. And it was just an honor to be there and representing the board.
Great, thank you. CSBA and SBA report. Director Pugh.
We're going to pass tonight and save a little time.
All right. That brings us to consent.
Move approval of items 1 through 14.
Second.
Moved by Director Carl, seconded by Director Sheffield, enthusiastically, I'm sure. Roll call vote, please.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Motion carries. That brings us to our F items. F1, public hearing for local control accountability plan, elementary district.
So yes, this is our public hearing for elementary, so I turn it back over to you, President Close.
Okay, this is opportunity. We don't have any blue cards on this, Lori? No? For questions or comments by the board? Oh,
Open the hearing.
hearing is open. I did it backwards. No comments from the public?
Close.
There's no questions from the board or comments?
The report is so good.
The report is excellent.
So good.
All right, F2, public hearing for local control accountability plan secondary district. I'll do it in the right order this time. Open. Comments from the public? No. Board?
Thank you.
F3, public hearing San Jose Schools budget for 2017-2018 fiscal year.
Good evening. Go to the next one. Thank you. So we are here for the first piece of our budget adoption. You'll be hearing a little bit about the budget tonight, and then it'll come back to you in 2 weeks for actual adoption. Here is the budget cycle that we've seen a few times now this fiscal year. We are at the very top of it now. So this is the budget adoption piece of it. And so we'll have a ways to go before we get to the final part of this cycle. You'll notice the review and approval process for budget adoption is a little different than it is at the interim periods. The interim periods, we've seen the definitions of what it would take for the county to make a determination or for a district to self-certify as positive, qualified, or negative. At the adoption period, it's a little different. You are either going to get approved by the County Office of Education, disapproved, or conditionally approved. The County Office of Education will rarely deny approving a school district's budget. I can't think of a time that I've heard of that happening recently. If anything, if things aren't looking good, it's a conditional approval, and that usually takes a district really holding firm on not being willing to make the adjustments and take the actions necessary to meet its financial obligations, and clearly that's not the case for us. So this is just information for you to know that this approval process is different than it was at the interim reporting periods. Here are a listing of all of the district's funds with a couple of exceptions. I like to sort of pair them off this way so you get a sense of what's an operating fund versus what's a capital fund, and all of these funds are included in your board packet. I want to just highlight a couple of things. So one, you have a Fund 09 for your charter schools. That actually consists of multiple funds that roll up into one. So you have a separate fund for each and every one of your dependent charter schools. One other fund that you have that's not listed here, because it's not really an operating fund or a capital fund, is Fund 67. It's a self-insurance fund. There's very little activity in that fund, and it just takes a couple of pages in your board packet. The other one I will note that's not listed on here because you don't have it yet, but you will soon, is Fund 51. It's the Bond Interest and Redemption Fund. And so once we start paying off our bond, we will be showing repayment of those dollars, repayment of that debt. And so you'll be, at some point in time, authorizing a new fund, getting it open, and showing the activity at every reporting period. Go to the next one. Here is our general fund revenues. These are both the restricted and the unrestricted. I like to show it this way because you can see how most of the revenue pie comes from LCFF sources. I do want to highlight a couple of adjustments I make because I like it to be as real as possible. And so if you were trying to tie this back to the fund forms, you'll notice a couple of adjustments. One, I reduced our LCFF sources by about $6.1 million to reflect the amount of dollars that we transfer to the charter schools. And so it's revenue that isn't maintained within the school district. It goes to a separate fund. It goes to the charter schools, both the dependent and independent ones. And so that's one adjustment that's made to give you a better sense of what our revenues look like. The other one is we are a member of a SELPA, our special education local plan area. Because we're a member of that district, we don't receive our dollars directly from the state for special education. We end up recording them as local dollars. And so when we show them as local dollars, as we're required to, they're in our financials, they're that way, but they're not really local dollars. And so it ends up looking like we might have a parcel tax because we happen to be a member of a SELPA. And I don't want it to look like that because really, truly, on the local side, it's only 2% of our revenue that comes from the local, from any local entity. So I want to make sure that state dollars get reflected as state dollars, and so that 9% better reflects how much money we really do get from the state, including the dollars we get from our SELPA for special education purposes. Here is a pie that just shows big picture our non-personnel and our personnel expenditures. A couple of things. So one, I have shown there on the left-hand side sort of a breakdown of some of the categories of non-personnel expenditures. I think it's easier to understand that personnel are people, salaries and benefits, and they're both pieces, not just the salary, but the salary and the benefits. And then the things that the folks we employ to educate our kids fall into the non-personnel side. I'm going to highlight one number just because I think it's the number that would probably get the most attention, and that's the $29.3 million that's listed for professional services. Oftentimes we translate professional services to consultant services, and they're not one and the same. And so I'm going to highlight some of the bigger dollar amounts that make up that $29.3 million. By far the largest is about $17 million for special education, and that's for what we call NPA, NPS, non-public agency, non-public schools. It also includes about $6 million for transportation. Those are the two very large dollar amounts. Everything after that gets significantly smaller pretty fast. We've got about $1.2 million there for ACES and for our school climate grant award. We've got another $2 million there for supplemental and concentration dollars, about $0.5 million for legal costs, about $0.3 million for crossing guards, and about $0.7 million for our RMA, for our routine restricted maintenance account. And so my point there is the dollar amount looks very big because we tend to think professional services equals consultant services, and I want to be very clear, that is not all that's in there. Most of the dollars are for things like special education, makes up $17 million of that right there, and that's for NPA, NPS, and similarly the other dollar amounts cover something other than a consultant coming in to do something like professional development. Go to the next one. This slide here, I prepared in response to some of the observations that were shared when we were doing our budget forums. Some people heard us say we've got about almost $129 million in personnel costs and translated that into it's the teachers. It's not the teachers. It takes more than teachers for us to run as an entity. And so I want to be clear with folks that no, it's not, it was never intended to say that all of that cost is teachers. About 48% of it is for certificated teachers, but there's plenty of other things that we have to spend money on the personnel side. So it's not just teachers, it's teachers plus the rest of the team that it takes to educate our kids. The one I will highlight up there is the one that just feels like it's getting scarier every time, and that's the stirs and purrs. That's becoming a greater proportion of the pie, and so I think that's one we'll have to sort of keep our eyes on as time progresses to make sure that we're managing it. On the restricted side, our major program is special education. In our proposed budget, there's about $37 million worth of expenditures, and about half of that is covered by the state. Less than 10% is covered by the federal government, and about 40% comes as a contribution from our unrestricted general fund. Next slide over. Here are our major multi-year projections. I do want to highlight on the for the COLAs and the gap funding rates. Those are all based on the best information we have as of today from the proposed budget. And if you go one slide over, the same is true at the bottom for the CalSTRS and the CalPERS rates. So those are all the most current information that we have right now. Step and column, as always, is always included in our budget. The negotiated salary increases I shared before is never included until they're actually approved. And so that means we have a TA, because they've been agreed to at the negotiating table. That TA has been approved by the bargaining unit, and then approved by the board, and then sent off to the county for approval. So not until all of those things happen do we include a negotiated salary increase into our multi-year projection. I want to note that I understand that can be hard to hear sometimes, because it feels like, well, shouldn't the district be planning for an increase? And that's not what that line is about in terms of assumptions. It just means that we won't make an assumption that we will offer and an employee group will accept a certain amount, right? That I'd like to push it and just think of, like, if to the extreme, if we assumed X, an employee group might be offended by that because they might think there's no way we would accept X, or they would never offer X. And I don't want to put a number on X for very clear reasons, but I think it's important to note it's not intended to be insulting that we don't include an amount. It just means we won't make an assumption that anything would be approved by either the board or by a bargaining unit until it is actually approved and sent off to the county for review and approval. When we put together all of those assumptions, we come up with our multi-year projections. And I'm going to just go to the bottom line, if you can move over one. It's very comparable to what we saw at third interim, with about $5 million of reductions needed in FY 18-19. for FY 18-19, which means that in the 17-18 fiscal year, the upcoming fiscal year, we would go through a process of meeting with our community, coming up with a list of possible reductions, having the board review and approve those reductions by the end of February. And I note that it has to happen by the end of February because staff would need enough time to ensure that any notices that need to go out in March actually have time to go out. You'll notice that in FY 18-19 to 19-20, the reductions go from $5 million to $10 million. That's not an additional $5 million worth of cuts, it's just that it's ongoing, yes. So it's ongoing, and so $5 million one year, and then you add that to the $5 million next year. And at this point, it looks like we might need an additional set of reductions in 19-20. 19-20 is still a couple of years off. A lot could change in that time. So that number feels, that number is significantly less reliable than the $5 million that we might be identifying during this time for next year. I do want to highlight one thing here. We have a designation in the 17-18 marked ADA clarification. In coming up with the calculations for LCFF in the current year, we use a calculator that FCMAT puts out. FCMAT is the Fiscal Crisis and Management Assistance Team. So every school district uses the FCMAT calculator. We made an observation that the FCMAT calculator that was released for proposed budgets is pooling what we believe is our P1 ADA and is stating that it is our P2 ADA. We think that's a mistake. We're working on getting it clarified. And so we've set aside that difference between P1 ADA and P2 ADA sitting there in the bottom line, because that, if it is correct that they are pooling the wrong ADA, we would be reducing our revenue by that amount. And so we're setting it there as an aside. If you could go to the next one. Some pretty significant next steps that we're waiting for. These aren't small ones. One, we will be working over the summer to put together that budget advisory committee and have a plan for the board to consider on putting together that group that will be helping the district think through the spending reductions for the upcoming fiscal year. Also putting together a plan based on the recommendations that FCMAT made at the last board meeting. We, of course, are waiting for the Budget Act. We did have some movement, and it does look like we may have the potential to add some one-time revenue. What came out of the Budget Conference Committee was positive, and so we might be looking at adding, I would guess, easily $1 to $2 million of one-time revenue to our budget. And we could very well know that in time for the next board meeting. And then a big one is fall enrollment. I'm seeing where we land in terms of kids actually coming to the school district for CBEDs. And then the transition that's going to be happening. I believe the new CBO starts on Monday. The executive director is often married and honeymooning, and he'll be back in a few days. And so the superintendent and cabinet will have a whole team to work with and get the transition going. I'm very excited for you guys. That is it.
Thank you for the report. So with that, we'll open the public hearing. And see no comments. Questions from the board? Close the public hearing. And
Excellent report.
excellent report. Thank you. And move on to F4, approval of site requested instructional materials.
Good evening,
It's an
President Close, Superintendent Kitamura, members of the board. Per board policy, we are presenting the proposals to purchase instructional materials from the one-time money that we received from the state in 2015-2016, which was allocated for instructional materials. You have the list in your packet. I do want to say that the Instructional Materials District Committee, also known as the IMDC, has been meeting this year. A very thoughtful group that's made up of 6 teachers, 2 district office administrators, admin, the library, media specialist, the director of data assessment, and a district office facilitator. They did put out a survey in October to sort of glean ideas of what was going to be needed for instructional materials. And through the work of the committee, they decided that the 2 disciplines that should go for full adoption were math and ELA. But knowing that it's important that everybody sort of has some needed materials, as we have been sort of not providing that over the years. Other disciplines were given an allocation of $33 per student to be able to purchase materials, and the materials that are in front of you are those instructional materials that went through the IMDC for approval. Although I know that there's been some concern around the fast turnaround time, we do want to say that I feel that there are very thoughtful items on this list that are going to be in the hands of our students when they return in August. And so I think that's really important as we start the year. So with that, I turn it back over to the board.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Director Fong.
I want to thank you for the work that has gone into this. It is a lot of work to spend a lot of money. And I know that every teacher who was involved in this gave it serious, serious consideration. I've seen this in the past, and no one takes it lightly, and everyone understands that it doesn't always come around. And sometimes it's a hurry-up situation, although we're talking about a very thoughtful committee that started way back when. So I understand some of the upset because we get rushed, and it's just all human nature how we are. But I really want to thank everyone who put a lot of heart and soul and time into choosing the best instructional materials, books and supplies for their students so they can do the very best work they can. And I appreciate that about our staffs. Looking at the list of stuff, incredible, incredible diversity. And wow, why, again, I'm ranting again, why are we in this position of getting this money once in a while? Then it's like pent-up demand and pent-up frustration, and we're just eating each other alive. So again, I just want to appreciate everybody for all they did, and again, rest and rejuvenation is good for all of us. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Director Pugh?
I'd like to make a motion, if it's okay. I'd approve item F4.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Director Pugh, second by Director Fong. Roll call vote, please.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close.
Before I vote, thank you very much for your work on this. I appreciate it. And who knew that a tuba cost so much money? Aye. Motion carries. All right. F5, action item, approval of Blackboard Inc.'s proposal for a hosted district website, mobile communications application, and mass notification system.
Good evening, President Close, Superintendent Kitamura, members of the board. Tonight, we're bringing forward a proposal for Blackboard Incorporated's hosted district website, mobile communications application, and mass notification system. We are currently using the mass notification system in the district, formerly known as ParentLink. They were acquired by Blackboard. One of the key well, there's several keys in the LCAPs, but one of them is to increase family engagement. And we're looking at this as a way to increase family engagement by being able to provide an easier to use website, mobile application, along with the mass notification system, not only for family engagement, but also for staff and community engagement as well. On the screen, I put a simple diagram for tonight about how this system integrates together. So going through one interface, we can deliver messages either by voice, email, text, website announcement, website pop-up, social media, or mobile app simultaneously. Currently, we own a website that's hosted on-premise, that's not a responsive design, not easily configurable, and not intuitive for those users who try and use it. It's a system, not a bad system, but it's a system, as I like to say, was built for engineers by engineers rather than for the people that need to update it and use it the most. Another major event that's happening starting in January 2018 is increased responsibilities for ADA compliance. Several districts have already gone through lawsuits and settlements over compliance measures on their website that could be as little as color choices or alternate text on web links or pictures. I put in the report in the board packet that a recent check on ours showed 55 compliance issues today. Most of those are regarding color choices between the purple and yellow and being hard to read on the website. So the Blackboard system with their hosted website actually will not allow content to be posted that is not ADA accessible. So it has a built-in mechanism to protect us from a potential lawsuit in the future. The proposal also includes a mobile application. As we all know, everything that can go mobile is going mobile right now, and being able to send out both informational and emergency notifications to those who download the app is very beneficial in this day and age. We'll also be able to have a community aspect to that. It'll be available for anyone who wants to download it. Of course, parents who log into it with the rights provided to them through the district will get additional information, including integration with Illuminate Education's information student system that will be rolling out for the 17-18 school year. As I mentioned previously, we're already using the mass notification system, which commonly referred to as an auto dialer or robocaller. That also integrates and becomes part of one succinct system for the district. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Director Fong.
Thank you, Rick. I really know that we need to stay on top of this because communication is like key. Communication with our families is primary importance, and the best communication, and I know how I used to do it before, was more difficult, more piecemeal, so this looks amazing. I might go back to work. But Spanish capability or language capability, how does that work in here?
It does have translation capability based on home language assigned in the student information system.
Thank you.
Director Sheffield.
Just one question. Have we ever had an issue with ADA compliance on the system currently in place?
Fortunately, we have not, no one has filed a complaint against us about it.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, this is an action item.
I'll second.
Moved by Director Pugh, second by Director Sheffield. Roll call vote, please.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Carl?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Okay, motion carries. That brings us to F6, action item approval of classroom safety device all-in-one notification system, intercom bells, and clock.
Good evening again, President Close, Superintendent Kitamura, members of the board. Tonight I'm bringing forward the all-in-one notification system for bells, clocks, public address speaker, and intercom. As we have discussed at previous occasions, the solution will implement one single solution for classroom and site safety across the district. As with our other technology bond projects, specifically the infrastructure project, we are implementing standards across every school site, including cabling, network equipment, and our phone system. This solution, with the included software, complements and utilizes our new infrastructure to support our schools. The solution includes, The solution includes a speaker, 3 configurable lights, and an LED display. Both verbal and nonverbal messaging and alerts can be conducted through the system to every classroom, to every school in the district. I'd also like to address some comments that I've heard about these devices. It's been stated that with the implementation of this device, school administrators will be able to listen in without notice to conversations taking place in classrooms and other areas where the clock speaker is installed. There is capability to listen in, but there's also an audible tone when the intercom is turned on to listen. So there's a push button talk feature if the front office calls a classroom where they can talk and then listen for a response from that classroom. While they're in the listening mode, there is an audible chime every 15 seconds to let that classroom know that that device is still on and hearing the conversations in the room. This is built in as a safety feature in the event that something is transpiring in a single classroom, where if the front office is notified, they'd have the ability to listen to that classroom, but not without being known that they were listening. We heard the concerns. We talked to the manufacturer of the software solution that will be used to power these speakers. They were able to provide us with 2 alternate solutions if that was not acceptable for this district. The first solution, through code changes to the software, would eliminate the intercom functionality altogether for the speaker system. So it would just be a district or site PA system along with still the LED display and the flashing lights for nonverbal notifications. The second option is to buy additional software license that would connect the speaker to our new phone system call manager. The call manager is essentially the brains of our phone system. Once connected through the separate, utilizing a separate license, this enables full duplex bi-directional 2-way intercom. So that means 2 people can talk across that connection simultaneously. With classrooms alerted by an audible sound and microphone graphic on the LED display. When the use of the intercom is completed, the display would return to normal mode, and I have a short video that I can show you what that looks like as well. This would allow notifications to learning areas. If we decided to go this route, we would put it in classrooms and other areas where learning is taking place. Front office is an open area, we would avoid those types of areas. There is a cost associated for this feature. Individual licenses would be between $95 and $98 a unit for a total cost of approximately $100,000. And here is an example of the additional license. Hope everyone can see. So a beep, lights come on, and then a display on the clock speaker shows up as well. Now that speaker that you saw there is not exactly like the ones that are shown in the PowerPoint presentation, but they are from the same product line and have the same internal products, if you will, or design to power those speakers. So the system that we're proposing provides an all-in-one standardized solution to all of our sites.
Rick, can I interrupt you real quick? Do you have an example of the tone that comes on every 15 seconds without this modification?
I do not have one available tonight, but it would be very similar.
It's okay, but it's pretty much we get the tone to every 15 seconds, just not the light and the
Correct.
little. Okay, thanks.
As presented, this brings a standardized bell clock speaker system throughout the district. One issue that we deal with now is a number of different systems throughout the district of varying ages. lack of campus coverage, complaints from site administrators that they can't reach all classrooms, broken clocks, not in every classroom, but enough where they're not even standardized, where replacement is as easy as it should be. Mr. Van Dyke to my right can tell some stories about that as well from his previous site. It brings flashing lights for nonverbal communication, which would be specifically important in deaf and hard and hearing rooms, and a digital display for not only the time that you see shown on that example, but also for other messaging, alerts, or general campus information, as well as a synchronized district-wide clock where all of our sites would be on the same time, which does not happen currently. I turn this back over to the board for any questions.
Thank you. Director Carl.
Thanks. Thanks, Rick. These are hardwired, right?
They are.
How long does it take to install one of these in a classroom?
Depending on the room, they vary, but probably somewhere between 45 minutes and an hour and a half to 2 hours.
And when will that be done?
That can start immediately this summer as we process a PO and get everything finalized.
Is there any reason to believe that we would ever have to install them during class time?
No.
Okay. All right.
Just, may I tag on to that?
Sure.
Just like we're doing right now with our cabling projects and our network equipment upgrades through the district, all work is conducted from approximately 4 p.m. till 2 a.m. in the morning. So we don't disturb the traditional classroom time. During the summer, obviously, we switch back to days.
Are there ongoing maintenance costs associated with this?
Not for the speakers, and it's one-time cost for the software as it is now.
Okay. Do the lights go out at some point? What's the life expectancy?
I do not have that information, but they're LED lights, so I would assume that the time frame is a decade at minimum, if not longer,
Okay.
with how much use they would actually receive.
Okay. Thanks.
Director Fong.
So I want to start by saying that, again, if we're talking about safety and communication as people's input in terms of what's the most important for all of us, and speaking as a former site administrator, making sure that your kids are safe and sound and your staff is safe and sound, and having the most up-to-date technology to do that is something we have to do. We cannot not do it. I think as a teacher also, it's a little different for us if we have an intercom in the classroom that all of a sudden somebody's can listen in, and that's different for us. We just haven't had that before. But I think the visual part and the beeping and the notification that yes, someone is now kind of like about ready to say something or going to listen in so they can hear what you have to say back is enough notice. I can't say how many times I've been into classrooms, walking into classrooms, and no one notices that I'm in there, and they're saying all kinds of things, and teacher doesn't notice sometimes because they're so engaged with the kids, and the kids are so engaged, and maybe a kid won't say something in front of me, likely, but then they'll say it when I leave. So the fact that no one's getting a surprise is important to me. I just want to say that I had one very scary lockdown experience that this would have been amazing, and it involved the police calling me as a principal saying, we think you have a situation in one of your classrooms where there's a gunman or someone in your classroom because a kid is saying he's got a gun, stay down, be quiet. I don't know how they got that message. Well, I'll tell you what the punchline, but we didn't know where that kid was. We didn't know which classroom it was. I had to send administrators running to the classrooms, and the SWAT team came in, they went running to the classrooms. We didn't know who was there. We didn't know which classroom. We heard a female teacher, so we targeted all the classrooms. Finally, it was a 9th grader who butt dialed somebody else, was talking about a video game. But we take it seriously. Now, if we were able to listen in on classrooms, we may have heard something versus going to classrooms, or actually calling the classroom, which we also did, which is no secret either if there's someone in there. So anything that helps us with safety, it's good. So thank you for that research. Thank you for it looks like a great product.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you for that report. I think this is a great product, and I appreciate the teacher's concern about, I don't know what administrator would sort of surreptitiously listen into a classroom, but the fact that they could, I could see would be a little creepy, and so that there's some kind of notification so you could hear it. I think that's important. But man, would this be valuable, or will, at some point we're going to have the big one, and half our schools are sitting right on the big fault, and so this is going to be pretty valuable to be able to reach into each one of those classrooms and find out what's going on in there from a central location, or a phone, or a decentralized location. Actually, this seems like a great system to me. Thank you. It's an action item.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Moved by Director Carl, second by Director Sheffield. Roll call vote, please.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Okay, motion carries. This brings us back to F7, another action item, approval of network infrastructure equipment for Santa Rosa Charter School for the Arts and the Lewis campus.
Good evening, President Close, Superintendent Kitamura, members of the board. Tonight I bring for approval infrastructure equipment for Santa Rosa Charter School for the Arts and the Lewis campus. This is the same equipment being received at the other sites in the district through the Technology Infrastructure Project. We did not bring this, I believe it was February 10th of last year, because the campus was still under major construction, and we wanted to see how that site finished up in terms of IDF closets, total room capacity, and the total drops needed to bring a proposal that would meet the needs of that school site without a lot of guesswork. We've been able to do that now with comprehensive walks of both sites and bringing Lewis campus with enough equipment to bring up the phone system there that it will be district-wide throughout, as well as the same tools at Charter School for the Arts, including routing and switching, wireless access points, UPSs for network equipment, rather uninterruptible power supplies, phone system handsets and appropriate licensing, and the professional services for installation for these two sites.
Director Pugh.
Thank you. I have a question about the Lewis site. There's no program there this coming year, correct?
There's no program there. There are still people on that site, though, as of right now.
There are still going to be programs there. Steve, do you want to speak to the programs that'll be there?
Sure. In the wing, separate from the older building, there currently and continuing next year will be a preschool speech program and a DHH infant program, and then right now Head Start. We are also in the conversation about moving a medical therapy unit from Steel Lane that has had problems with transportation and bringing it to one of those wings. So we do have existing plans for that wing to have at least 3 classrooms next year.
Okay. How many classrooms are there on the site? About?
I know there's 10 portables.
About 20, I would say, 20 to 25.
I would assume that this year we're going to do some planning on this site. We have to worry about the development going up at the old hospital, and we have to have a place for students to go. So is there anything that's going to be installed or configured in the facilities that is going to be taken apart and not be able to be used? Should we move buildings around, or?
No, the only thing that would be affected by this would be if buildings were moved around, there would be the need for additional cabling, power, normal services that would go to a building or a classroom. But this equipment can be moved where needed, and we're not going overboard with this. We're getting the minimum in there to power that school site at this point.
Right, and so if things were reconfigured at the site for future use, the changes in cabling and such wouldn't be really a major financial cost to the district, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Director Fong.
Assistant Superintendent Missouri, those programs at the Lewis, the infant and something else,
Yeah.
those are Santa Rosa City Schools programs and not like county programs?
One is a county program that we operate. That's the DHH Infant, so it's our employees, and then we're reimbursed through the SELPA for that. That's the DHH Infant. There's a DHH Regular Ed, which is at Hidden Valley, similar program, right? And then the preschool program is our own program for students that turn between 3 before they come 5, preschool speech. And then the medical therapy unit is a SELPA contracted out agency that they lease a building from us. And we're obligated to give the SELPA so much space throughout the county.
I'm trying to figure out my question here. When we did the whole investigation about what we needed for the bond, was this all included in the needs assessment? These programs?
To some degree, they were. There's mention of them at the respective campuses that they're at. I know Lewis campus was included in there for the upgrades that they needed at that site moving forward as well from a facilities perspective.
What I like about this is that we are really beginning to do more of the whole community school model in terms of all the way down to as young as we can possibly reach, and having support structures for them too, and be ready for that, not just after the fact. So that's what I like about it.
Okay. This is an action item.
I'd like to move item F7.
Second.
Moved by Director Pugh, second by Director Fong. Roll call vote, please.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Okay, motion carries. F8, approval of issuance of RFPs for district-wide refuse pickup and disposal services.
Good evening, President Close, Superintendent Kidmore, members of the board. Another new one for me. Tonight we're asking for approval of issuance of a request for proposal for district-wide refuse pickup and disposal services. For a number of years now, the Santa Rosa City Schools has benefited from an agreement, or actually a throw into the city's contract from the refuse company, and the JC, us and some other local school districts have taken advantage of free waste pickup. The contract with the city is ending. It's not being renewed with the same company for a number of reasons. And so the city has asked us or informed us that we should go out for these services. So we are asking for authorization to do so with an anticipated start date of January 1, 2018.
Director Carl.
Thank you, Rick. It's unfortunate. My guess is that the estimated cost of $250,000 is not in our budget assumptions for 17-18. Is that correct?
The $250,000 is in the assumptions for the half year of service.
Good. All right. That's nice to know. The report indicates that SRJC is interested in working with us, but then there's a line that basically says we want to wait until we see what happens with the contract, and we want to continue discussions with SRJC. So why would we authorize a request for proposal at this point? It would seem to me that we can't define what that is quite yet, or what's the timing associated with it.
Really what we're waiting on is for the city to make their decision so we can see where they went. Kelly Cook, our director of purchasing, has been in communication with the JC. They're in a hold pattern too for that. We're bringing this forward so we start the preparation of the paperwork, and we'll determine with the JC through further conversation if we want to do a joint RFP or just do it solo.
So when all the paperwork is done and there actually is an RFP, is that going to come back to us before it's sent out?
We certainly could, but that wouldn't be the common procedure.
So the intent really here is to say, go do it in the standard form that you normally do, and then we'll see it once there have been responses to the request for proposal. Okay.
We can certainly bring back information as well when we get more information from the city, as well as further communication with the JC. We'd be happy to provide that.
Yeah, I'm interested in the scope, and I'm not sure that you can write that scope yet until we know what JC's doing. My assumption is that there isn't going to be anything in any contracts with the city, so I'm not sure it matters that much what the city contract is. It would only matter, in my estimation, relative to the actual request for proposal, that the person who gets the contract or the entity that gets the contract with the city may be in a better position to give us a better price than somebody else independently who doesn't have any trucks running around in the same locations that our schools happen to be in. So I think that we certainly wouldn't want to release a request for proposal until such time as the city has chosen their waste provider.
And we expect that hopefully by the end of summer.
Right. Thank you.
I spoke to the city manager. It should be coming in July, their decision.
Bless you. Director Pugh.
Rick, you do it all. You build facilities, buildings, you handle elevators, you collect refuse. I mean, it's a man of all trades right there. But I do have a question about the contract that the city has put out to bid. As I recall, many years ago, they issued the request and graciously put us in there that we would not have to pay anything for our refuse collection, right?
Actually, how it's been explained to me and from the documents that I read, the group that won the city's contract through the school district, the JC and local school districts in as a way to maybe sweeten the pot for selection by the city. It was not a formal statement in their request for services.
But they could have.
Well, no,
it would have been nice.
It would be nice.
It would have been really nice if the city would have taken a look at the contract and said, ooh, this is going to have a negative impact upon a whole lot of schools and a community college and such.
Yeah.
So I guess there's not much one can do about water under the bridge, but it seems like it would have been more helpful and collaborative and nice way to reach out to continue the same type of understanding.
And under the letter sent by the city, their legal argument, I forget exactly how it was written, but they do not have to provide services.
Yeah, what the city is saying to us by this case, is that case law, my attorney friends? The Laidlaw Waste System Inc. versus Bay City Services, that they are unable to add us to their contract.
Well, that's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, franchise regulations.
Okay. If there are no other questions or comments, I will entertain a motion.
I have a motion. I move that the staff is directed to prepare a request for proposal, work with SRJC in that regard if staff deems that appropriate, bring the scope of work back as an information item and not release the RFP until the city has made the selection of their waste provider.
Moved by Director Carl, second by Director Pugh. Roll call vote, please.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Okay, motion carries, and that
Thank you.
brings us, welcome, thank you. For your, Rick, what I think of when I think of you is the old Saturday Night Live skit about how many jobs you got, man. How many jobs you got? How many jobs? You totally win that.
Well, I want to say, though, this whole cabinet team has become the jack of all trades, or the spinning the plates for the jobs. And so we look forward to our 2 new people coming aboard so we can get back to our normal things that we do. So I have the next item, which is the review of board policy 6161 through 6190.
No,
Oh, no, okay, I don't have the next item, sorry.
you're getting it. You're anxious to go. We're flying along, but we have a discussion item first, developing a board member evaluation tool. It's all right. So we've talked about, so we're on F9, developing a board meeting evaluation tool. We've talked about doing board evaluation at several of our board governance trainings, and the superintendent provided us with a few different options or examples, and so this is an opportunity to sort of go through those and comment on what in these, our thoughts on these, or what in here we think is important or not important, so that we can come up with maybe a draft of one we'd like to circulate in a more formal way. Does anybody have any comments or thoughts on these? Director Carl?
I like the CSBA one. I like the concept of doing it electronically, that if we had that available, and that board members would each fill out an evaluation that would go back to district office and to other board members once everybody had chimed in, and that we do that periodically. I'm not sure I want to throw that responsibility to send that back every single board meeting, but it seems to me that perhaps on a quarterly basis we could do that, or I'm willing to listen to what other people have to say in terms of how often that's done, but I don't want to overload staff with a bunch of information after every single meeting, and make them have to make adjustments or changes with respect to that. And I would suspect that board members would be in a position to remember a few meetings and be able to make some comments, but I think that particular CSBA one doing electronically seems to meet most of what we're trying to accomplish.
Thank you. Anybody else have thoughts on this? Director Sheffield?
Yeah, I too like the CSBA version, and again, I just hoping that it's not too much of a burden on staff. I mean, I know, well, we know how busy you are, Vic. So anything that we can do that would make it a lot easier for you. So having this an online, something that we could, plug in fairly easily and get back to you.
Director Pugh?
It's really kind of a change of what you do. At CSBA, we do this after every meeting, but we don't meet monthly. But what it does do, it's really to help the president and the superintendent or director to hear what's going on. Are we on track, not on track, need more time, less time? And people shouldn't become defensive at all about what's being said, because it's a continuous improvement model. And so throwing this in once in a while and they could all be directed to the president's computer system. And you could just go through and look. I mean, it's pretty simple to do. You don't need a lot of statistics and lots of writing. It's just to do that continuous improvement, and it's been benefited. We've been doing this for about 5 years now, and at our board meetings, and it works really, really pretty well.
Director Carl?
I appreciate that comment. Actually, it makes me think that maybe the way to do this is have it available for all board members after every single meeting, and you can choose whether you want to provide anything, with an encouragement that you do it at least 4 times a year, so that we're not telling every board member you have to respond every single meeting, but it's available for you. If you feel like you want to, you certainly can, but there's an expectation of some minimum amount that every board member does respond.
Director Fong?
So I too like the CSBA, but I like it because, I'll say why, it's shorter and it allows comments or succinct, let's be succinct, comments, because I know collating this and putting it together is work for somebody. Director Carl, I understand that, yeah, anytime we want to do this, maybe we could do this, but I think it would be more, it would be better if we did it maybe once a quarter, that we all just once a quarter did it. So that is just hanging out there, because if you can do it anytime you wanted to, it's still as much work almost for staff to put that together, to look at it. So my suggestion would be, if we'd adopt this one, or adopt one of them, to do it once a quarter.
Director Pugh?
One thing I noticed as we started using the evaluation tool, PowerPoint presentations started to get smaller. As opposed to 20 or 30 slides, we're getting down to 5 slides, 4 slides, just really getting them, because people can read and they just want to move on to the next topic. So you'll see interesting things like that happen, I think.
I really liked the CSBA form as well. I think it was shorter and succinct, but also gives you opportunity to comment, and, you know, if there's something worth commenting on. I actually think it would be a good idea to have it available at the end of every meeting. And I mean, if there's nothing of note, you know, nothing is terrible or outstanding, you kind of flip through 8 radio tabs and put NA, or we did well, whatever. But I actually thought that would be a lot until I went to a couple of North Bay Organizing Projects planning meetings around the Safe Haven School thing, and they do at the end of every one of their meetings the last 5 minutes of their agenda item, and they always do it. I asked Davin about it afterwards. I think they always do an evaluation. It's very short, but they evaluate the meeting, and one of the things they live by in the organization is, if it's worth doing, it's worth evaluating. And that kind of resonated with me, and it also made me think about, in terms of our board meetings, you know, there's sometimes when they fly by and they're really easy and we all agree on everything, and that might not be the quarterly meeting, or that might be the quarterly meeting when we all evaluate, right? But it's really the ones that aren't that great that probably are important to be evaluated, right? When there is some disagreement on topics and stuff. And so I think if you do it quarterly, you just sort of luck out as to when you're evaluating, and so it might not really be as helpful as if there's an obligation to do it each time, even if it's just a quickie. So that would be my, and I also would like to know is how much staff time would this take?
So in my thinking about the board meeting evaluation, I did truly think about it from a growth standpoint. I honestly do not have a problem with this happening after every board meeting. I think it is short and sweet, and the data that will help my team about our presentations, I think is invaluable. We do this anyway, and so hearing directly from all of you about the board meeting, to me, it's helpful. They're all looking at me with stink eye right now, but I really do think it is helpful. I'm just kidding. No, we do. We value this. That's Super Cabinet. We break down the board meetings and prepare for the next, and this data would really actually help us. And SurveyMonkey is so easy. Right, Rand? I mean, you'll get us set up completely on how to get this and the data for everybody, so.
All right, well, so I think maybe putting one together based on the CSBA model that's specific to us and something that's accessible online real easily, we can, I don't know if it can be part of our agenda online, or if not, just maybe a separate link that we're sent.
Oh, we can actually put a link on there. Is there anything you don't want on there from the CSBA? Is there anything that you saw that you don't want? Okay, all right, great.
Well, that's great. Now it's your turn.
So,
F10, action item.
yes,
Review
so
and
we
approval
bring
of board
before
policies.
you board policy for your review. So I turn it back over to you, the board.
Does anyone have
Any
suggested changes to the board policies that issue here tonight?
I'd like to move item F10.
Second.
Moved by Director Pugh, second by Director Carl, celebrated by Lori Kolachek. Roll call vote, please.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, with that, Director Carl.
Sorry. I have a 2-hour speech. No. There is an informational item, G2, that had 3 different proposals relative to CIF realignment. And it wasn't really clear to me whether our district is advancing any one of those particular proposals or whether we've had any discussion internally about the impact of those proposals, particularly on the quality of competition and transportation costs. I was particularly moved by comments that I read in the paper when there was a discussion about this, of the ability of schools to be in different divisions based on how many kids they have participating in that particular sport. That to me has a very beneficial possibility with respect to some of our schools that can't necessarily get as many students into a particular sport as other schools could, and as a result would lose all of the time. So I think that made a lot of sense. And so it's kind of unclear to me whether there's anything that we're doing internally or whether we should be doing at the board level to advance any of those, because clearly our representatives voting on this in some capacity, and I don't know what kind of analysis is occurring.
I mean, some of the concerns that you've been brought up have been talked about internally. However, there's really not a whole lot we can do. It's sort of out of our hands, so to speak. We will have representatives from Santa Rosa City Schools attending the August 24th meeting. And if there is an opportunity to speak to that, they obviously will take that opportunity to share our concerns and our thoughts.
And our concerns and thoughts are along the same lines that I expressed in support that for the, we have very diverse school populations, and some schools can, in some sports, get a heck of a lot more than other kids. And we don't want, presumably, some realignment to significantly increase our transportation costs.
What Russ, I spoke to Russ about this too. He indicates that for Santa Rosa City School, these proposals don't have as much effect as the other schools in these leagues. That's one. The second thing that he was excited about these proposals was the fact that, for example, a school, I think he mentioned LC Allen's soccer team could now play teams that were equivalent to their skill, and that the ADs and the schools and he really appreciated that.
Okay, thank you.
Director Pugh.
As I recall, I need to check into this, but as I recall in the past, way past, that the California School Board Association is allowed to appoint a member to the Board of Governors, or CIF, in each of the regions. So we're in Region 3. And I did it for several years. I didn't much care for it. It was a bad choice to have me there. But it was interesting. If I will check into that. Is there an interest amongst the board that they would be willing to do that? The meetings we would attend were sort of interesting. It was a full agenda, but a lot of people played golf at the end of the meeting, as I recall. But still a good meeting. So if there is, I will pursue that and see what happened to that appointment that we used to make. All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're adjourned.